Well, the birth of a child is usually a happy, exciting time for families, but becoming new parents during a pandemic now comes with additional challenges. Isolation is changing the way that relatives are meeting their newest family members. Natalie Kiparisas is a new mother who gave birth to her son last weekend. Wow. And she joins us from her home in Toronto. Thanks so much for joining us. Congratulations on the birth of your son.
Thank you.
Let's talk about how the process was different for you because of the pandemic.
Well, I guess going into it, everyone's got these big things about how, that you picture it's going to be. You picture, your husband or your partner running out to tell your family, and that definitely was not the case this time. But I must say that I'm really lucky. My husband was allowed to stay with us. I know we have some friends giving birth in the next couple of weeks, and their hospitals are only allowed to stay. The husbands are only allowed to stay for 2 hours, and then they need to leave. So I was very thankful that my husband was allowed to stay overnight with me, which was great, because being a new mom is already hard and already scary, and to do it by myself, I think would have been even worse. But it was definitely sad not to run out and scream, it's a boy, to our family. So it was different.
So how many family members have not seen your son yet, and normally they would have?
I'm going to go with at least 30. But luckily, we've been doing a little bit of FaceTime every day, so there's definitely people that we've seen, but just, it's sad because even I have a cousin yesterday who said, wow, he looks really great. Hopefully I'll get to meet him before his first birthday, which was really sad and kind of silly at the same time.
Giving birth is an emotional experience for sure. How has that emotion been affected by the pandemic?
I think it's a little harder because you don't have that extra support. My husband's wonderful, but it's always nice to have a big family to lean on them, and the most we've been able to lean on them is for making some food and having it dropped off at the door, and that's about it. Emotionally, I think it's just been a little bit of a rough ride this week, and as it usually is, I'm sure, for most moms after they give birth. It just seems to be a little more, I feel like it probably a little more than I anticipated, probably because we can't get to see everybody. Grandparents can't hold him. They can only see him from afar. We had a Zoom conversation last night with everybody. So I think it's hard. And I think and not being selfish, I think it's hard on me and my husband, but I'm sure it's even harder for the grandparents who, have waited so long just to hold somebody, and they don't get to do that.
In terms of going forward, there are doctor's appointments, of course, very early on and after the newborn is arrived. So what has that process been like?
That was pretty interesting. We do have a pediatrician, and the office was fantastic, but the protocols are definitely really tight. So when we arrived at our first well baby appointment, we checked in, with the receptionist, and then we all needed to wait in the foyer. So 6 feet apart. There was about 4 other babies there getting checked as well. And that was it. It was a one parent kind of a deal. And I thought, oh, this is, my first baby's appointment. My husband will be there. We'll take a couple pictures. Like, it's cute. They're going to weigh him. Not the case again. It was just one parent. The rooms are small, and there was very minimal touching. The doctor, obviously checked the baby, but she was in full PPE gear. Again, I had to just kind of maneuver around and best keep my distance from her while we were in such a small space. So that was also very hard.
Now, hopefully your son will not remember any of this, that it won't go on so long that he does.
Yes.
What are you going to tell him about his birth and his first few months?
Well, I'm going to tell him that it was hard. It was hard. You can't lie. You can't sugarcoat stuff like that. And I don't think the kids are any different. But you know what? It'll just make him a little bit more resilient. We've waited 10 years for this little miracle, my husband and I, and what's another couple months to see family, really? So I think that if anything, we're going to learn how to be stronger coming out of this, and just how to be more resilient in life and more appreciative of the time that we have with each other, really.
His whole birth and early months will have a unique experience that you'll be able to share with him.
For sure, for sure.
Oh, by the way, before I let you go, what's his name?
His name is John.
Oh, best name ever.
Thank you. Thank you.
Natalie, I want to thank you for sharing what is obviously a very personal and special time in your life. And look, show him this someday when he's grown up.
For sure.
And
For sure.
I'm sure he'll be amazed at your courage and your strength through all this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Natalie Kiparisas is a new mother, and she spoke to us from her home in Toronto.